Alright, stratagems. Got a lot of interesting stratagems in here. Probably not going to go through all of them. There is 2 pages stratagems here. Some of them are pretty standard. So like these 4 here are your extra Warlord traits and your extra relics that they're giving out now. So you could have a ton of artifacts and relics. So this first one is if your Warlord has the Adeptus Mechanicus keyword, then you could select one other character to gain a relic. So just an Adeptus Mechanicus character, it doesn't specify who other than that. So it doesn't matter if you're Cult Mechanicus or Scutari. And then you could get 2 relics or do 2 additional if you're playing a strike force, or 3 if you're doing an onslaught. You cannot use it to give a model 2 relics though. The locum is same thing for Warlord traits. Again, just Adeptus Mechanicus character. And then host of the intermediary is specific for Scutari. And then the Artifactorum again is Scutari. But this one is also, you could give a relic to an alpha or a princeps, so like a sergeant character. They must be able to take it as normal, so it does limit what artifacts you could give. The host of the intermediary also you can give to a princeps or an alpha. Alright, some other good ones here. Dune Striders. Your Iron Strider engine and Cerberus unit from your army. Selected to advance until the end of the turn. Don't roll for the advance roll, you just add 6 inches to their movement. And then heavy weapons change to assault, and then you don't suffer any penalties for firing assault weapons because you advanced. So I like that with the Sulphur Hounds, because they get the auto D6 to, or the auto 6 for their advance, and they just get to shoot everything with no penalty. It's great. Again, it's really good on Iron Strider Ballistari. You'll notice a trend. They're really pushing those Iron Striders. Let's see, Electro Priests with the Zealous Congregation. 6s to hit, automatically wound. It's always fun. For 2 CP, I think it's probably a little overcosted. Assassin Constructs. I like this one a lot. Sakaran unit gets +1 to an attack if it was charged or performed a heroic intervention. This really good. I like it. It actually stacks very well with machine superiority. Again, fight phase. So use it when a Scutari unit is selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to the strengths characteristic. And Sakaran are Scutari, so you could 1 attack, 1 strength. It's great. Electromancer's Wrath I think is really good too, because if you take the Electromancers with the stabs, they don't have any shooting attacks, but this makes it so they could at least do some mortal wounds to vehicles. For 1 CP, in the shooting phase, select 1 unit, excluding vehicles within 12. So it's still nice to be able to have a shooting attack. You could do it to monsters, so like Morty or something like that. That's very tough. Select an Electro Priest unit from your army. Roll 1d6, subtracting 1 if the character or if the model is a character. Unit is a character. 2 to 5 does D3 mortal wounds. 6 it does 2 D3 mortal wounds. So pretty good. I like that one. Let's see, what's another good one? Benevolence of the Omnissiah. Vehicles ignore mortal wounds on a 4-up. That one's good. Tech Adept. I think this one might see quite a bit of play. You could use it in your command phase or the movement phase. So there's 2 phases you could use it in. So twice a turn you could use it. If it's in your command phase, you could use the machine focus or awaken the machine ability an additional time. And we'll go over those here and when we go over our HQs. Actually, let's do that real quick, because otherwise you don't know what we're talking about right now. So, command phase. Let's see. Machine focus, right? Machine focus or awaken the machine. So machine focus is with your techno-archaeologist. And the machine focus lets you pick a unit within 6 inches. That is a Forge World Core, Cataphron, or Servitors. Cataphron Servitors gain the infantry keyword, or can perform an action like their infantry. So they could, raise your banners and do other actions. And then while you're performing an action, you can make a shooting attack without that action failing. So you could do that twice, which is good, especially if you're running like Cataphron heavy. And then the other one is awaken the machine. Your command phase, you can awaken a machine. You pick a vehicle model that is not a Castellan robot within 3 inches, and they add 1 to hit rolls. So your tech priest can do that twice. Or you can, pick a unit to perform an action and shoot twice. Not shoot twice, but do that to 2 different units. So that's good for that first part. That's if you use it in the command phase. If you use it at the end of the movement phase here, that model can use the Master of Machines ability 1 more time. And Master of Machines is the same on most of your characters here, and that's where you start to do your heals. So you could repair a friendly Forge World model within 3 inches of it for D3. So you can heal twice with a unit, but you cannot heal the same unit twice. That's dictated in the actual rule here, is each model can only be repaired once per turn. But if you've got like a tech priest in between 2 units that need to be healed, you could heal both. So that one's good. Machine Spirit Resurgent. Vehicle acts like it's on top profile. That's always good. Let's see, acquisition at any cost. That's another good one. You pick an objective, and all Adeptus Mechanicus units in your army within 6 inches of it automatically pass morale tests. So it's really good, especially if you've got 3 or 4 units around an objective and they all lost a couple models. You just auto pass with all of them. It's great. Machine Spirit Revenge, automatically explode, always good. Circuitous Assassins. This one they had before, but I think it was only for the Rust Stalkers, where if you have a Sicaran unit within 9 inches of the battlefield edge, you can remove them and then redeploy them in your next movement phase, but they have to be within 9 of a battlefield edge and at least 9 away from enemies. So it's again mid-game redeploy with your Sicaran. Redeem Police Sunk Talons. Makes it so your Traxxas sterilizers prevent a unit from falling back on a 2-up. Tactica Obliqua is a popular one with the Cerberus Raiders, making it so if enemy wants to charge them, they get to move away. The enemy does get to change their charge target if they wish. Crushing Weight, I think, is a new one. It's for Iron Strider engines and Castellan robots, so generally you'll use this with the Dragoons and the robots. And when they make a charge move, you roll a number of dice equal to the number of models that from your unit that you got into engagement range. And on a 2-up, they do a mortal wound. Great. Mortal wounds are always fun. Electroshocked. Electroshocked Should have used this one in my game. I misread it and I didn't use it because I thought it had to be a Cult Mechanicus character. But what it does is at the start of the fight phase, when an enemy unit, excluding a vehicle or monster unit, is within engagement range of a Cult Mechanicus core or a Cult Mechanicus character from your army, till the end of that phase, the enemy is not eligible to fight until after all eligible units have fought. So it's a fight last. And so you could actually use this on your Cataphron or your Castellan robots if you have the Data Smith nearby. So the Data Smith gives them core, so they are a Cult Mechanicus core unit at that point. Or if they charge the Data Smith, you could use it and make them fight last. So any of your Cult Mechanicus core or characters can make somebody fight last. There are a couple instances of fight last in the book, as well as fight first. So being able to balance those is really important, and can give you a really good edge in combat with a predominantly shooting army. Booster thrust, I think this one's going to get FAQ'd. You'll see this all over a lot of battle reports right now online. A Traxi unit that comes in from reserve. They don't even have to come in reserve, but that's what they do. They'll come in, say, sterilizers with their flamers. They'll come in from reserves, drop in, flame something with 10d or 9d6 auto hits, and then at the end of the turn, you spend 1 CP, and you remove them from the table, and they deep strike again next turn. Ridiculous. It makes them basically unkillable unless somebody has like Auspex scan or something to be able to shoot units as they come in. I have a feeling that's going to get changed to where you can either pull them and then put them back. You probably have to wait a whole nother turn, or you could only pull them maybe in your opponent's turn, like at the end of your opponent's turn, something like that. So maybe you deep strike in yours, they're down for all of your turn, all of their turn, and then you could pull them at the end of their turn so they could drop down again in your movement phase. So that way they at least have to be on the table. I don't know. It's probably going to get changed though. Let's see. Chain Taser Protocols, another really good one. In the old book before, in 8th edition, you could get your tasers to explode on 4-ups. Right now, it's only unmodified 6s. Stratagem makes it unmodified 5s and 6s. So again, more exploding hits with taser weapons. Amazing. Really good. Info Slave Skull is similar to what you would need against the Booster Thrust. Lets you shoot units that come in from reserve if they're within 12. Some kind of very specific one, Arc Grenades. Not that great in my opinion, only because I think only one unit has Arc Grenades to use it, which is the, what are the other flying guys, not the sterilizers. Forgive me guys, I'm sorry. The Skystalkers. They've got arc grenades. They're one of the few that actually have arc grenades, or one of the only ones I think. So that one, you fly over a unit, right? Select one vehicle within 6 inches and roll 1d6. On a 2 to 5, that vehicle suffers d3 mortal wounds, and on a 6, it suffers 2d3 mortal wounds. So, just mortal wounds on a vehicle. I mean, it's good to get those extra mortal wounds, but it's very niche. Incense, exhausts, again, Adeptus Mechanicus smokescreen unit from your army, and you get -1 to be hit. There's, I think, only 3 units with smokescreen, and those are your flyers. And that's only if you take a certain upgrade. So the chaff launcher gives you smokescreen keyword, right? and each time an attack is allocated to the bearer, subtract 1 from the damage. So the chaff launcher gives you -1 damage, but you're already hard to hit, so you're already subtracting 1 from a hit roll. So unless somebody's got pluses to hit you, you don't need the smoke screen. Or if you go into hover and then you lose the -1 to hit, then you could use the CP and still get the -1. But it's very, very limited to just those 3 flying units from what I could see. It seems like a little bit of a waste to me, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. Probably the two best stratagems are going to be the enriched rounds and the galvanic volley fire. This is what's really making this book kind of turn out to be a little bit more of an infantry-based book, I think. Enriched rounds. In your shooting phase, an Adeptus Mechanicus unit from your army is selected to shoot until the end of that phase. Each time a model makes a shooting attack with a radium weapon against an enemy, excluding vehicles, an unmodified hit roll of a 4+ automatically wounds. So that's mainly going to be for your Vanguard units. 4s to hit, automatically wound. That's amazing. So you don't even necessarily have to hit on your normal ballistic skill. Your normal ballistic skill is a 3, so I guess even if you advance, you're still hitting and wounding on 4s to hit then. It's really good. Especially against monsters. So, because you're only strength 3. You go against a strength 6 or toughness 6 plus monster or character, anything like that, and you're still wounding on 4s to hit. So you take a 20-man unit of Vanguard, that's 60 shots, because they are assault 3, and you just lay into them. I think my first turn in my game, I was able to shoot all 60 shots into a scythed Hardul, and did, let's see, 12 and 12, 24, and then 11, 35 wounds. 35 wounds to a scythed Hardul from 20 guys. That would normally just be wounding on, they'd be normally wounding on 6s, but they just wound on 4s to hit. It's amazing. Next one is the galvanic volley fire. Your Scutari Rangers units, it changes their galvanic rifles specifically from heavy 2 to rapid fire 2. The 30-inch range normally. So you get within 15 for a rapid fire range, and you're shooting 4 shots each at strength 4 -1. And you could still boost that with either your doctrine, your dogmas, or with like a manipulus to increase your AP. There's all kinds of ways to boost these to make these better on top of that. But again, you move a unit into rapid fire range, your unit of 20 rangers is shooting 80 shots, and it's rapid fire, so you're also not worrying about that hit penalty from it being heavy, because it's not heavy anymore. So it's kind of a dual use, you know, negating that hit penalty and getting extra shots. Really, really good. All right, our holy orders. Let you know the points cost for the holy orders and power level cost for holy orders. It only goes on a tech priest, so that's your dominus, your manipulus, your techno-archaeologist, and your engine seers. I don't think your data smiths. I don't think they're tech priests. Data smith. Datasmith is a tech priest, so he can have one as well. They're interesting. They've got 3 parts to them. The first part reduces the CP of a stratagem of a particular category. So Janitors reduces battle tactic, Logi or Logi, strategic ploy, Magi, epic deed, and artisan is a war gear stratagem. And they just reduce it once per game, reduces stratagem by 1. And then they've each got an initial part, which is the default ability for it, and then an advanced part, which you have to perform an action, and then at that next turn, the advanced part kicks in. So the initial part for Janitors is in your command phase. If this part is active for a model, select one friendly Forge World Core or Cataphren Servitors unit within 6 until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, an unmodified hit roll of a 6 automatically wounds. Alright, great. So that's similar to just the radium weapons, unmodified 6s wound. Great. The advanced part, so if you do an action, so this could only be on turn 2 forward if you do your action turn 1, is in your command phase. If this part is active, select one friendly Forge World Cataphren Servitor or Servitors within 6 inches of this model. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a model in that unit would lose a wound, roll a d6, and that wound is not lost. So this would pair well, again, in a Cataphren heavy army. Probably not for me, but if you want to run a lot of Cataphrens, probably pretty good. Logi or Logi or Logi or Lugi. Logi. Alright, so the passive, which is the initial part, I really like. I don't know if I would go to the advanced that often with this one, if ever. Predictive Barrage in your command phase. If this part is active for this model, select one friendly Forge World Core unit within 6 inches. Until the start of your next command phase, each time an armor penetration characteristic of a 1 or 2 is allocated to a model in that unit, that attack has an armor penetration value of 0 instead. Amazing. So AP1, ignore AP1 and 2. Period. For a unit. Amazing. Amazing, amazing. Advanced part. Flaws in the foe in your command phase. If this part is active for this model, select one friendly Forge World Core or Cataphren Servitor unit within 6 inches of this model. Until the start of your command phase, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, that target does not receive the benefits of cover against that attack. Not great. I mean, it's good, but I really like the ignore -1, -2 AP. I would probably just stick with that. Alright. Magi. Predatory Programming is the initial, so this is what you start off with. In your command phase, if this part is active for this model, select one friendly Forge World Core unit within 6 of this model. Until the start of your next command phase, add 2 to the advance rolls made for that model. It's okay. +2 advance, not huge. Maybe you could pair it with the other stratagem for giving your Iron Striders or Cerebus the 6-inch auto advance. So maybe give them an 8. But it says roll. I don't know. Does it apply if you don't have to roll for it? These are the questions we must ask. Advanced part. This one's really good too. This is probably what I'd aim for if I was going with the Magi. All this wording in the beginning is the same. You know, so command phase, pick a friendly Forge World Core unit within 6 of this model. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, an unmodified hit roll of a 6 scores an additional hit. Exploding 6s while shooting. Great. What's a really shooty unit that you want exploding 6s on? Maybe do that with your Cataphrons? Nope, they're not core. So you can't do that with Cataphrons. Castellans, you could, if you're taking shooty Castellans now, you could do that. Iron Strider Ballistari, they're core. You could do that with them. Your blobs of Rangers, you know, you go in, you get those 80 shots for making them rapid fire too, and then 6s are additional hits. Amazing. Amazing. Alright, and then Artisans here, this last one. Initial part, enhanced biochemical interface. At the end of your movement phase, if this part is active for this model, select one friendly Forge World Core or Cataphron Servitors unit within 6 inches of this model. Until the start of your next movement phase, the unit is eligible to charge and shoot any turn in which it fell back. But if it does so each time a model makes a ranged attack, subtract 1 from the hit rolls. Still really good. Probably really good on your Cataphrons, I would think, because they most of the time, especially if you're taking destroyers, you're going to want to be shooting, and your enemy's not going to want that. So they're probably going to try to get into you. This lets you fall back and shoot. -1 to hit. I really like taking those Cognis Flamers on my destroyers, so auto hits, don't care. So really good. Advanced part here, exquisite calibration in your command phase. If this part is active for this model, you can select one friendly core within 6. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, add 1 to the strength characteristic of that attack. Again, pair that with almost anything in the book. It's amazing. I keep going back to Rangers and Vanguard. Rangers would be strength 5 -1, right? Yeah, good. Strength 4 for the radium carbines, and again with that special Forge World, right? Make them strength 5 for the radium rifles at -1, and then with the Manipulus, you give them an extra AP, so they're strength 5 -2. Amazing. Alright, and I think we have to change a battery. Let's see what we could do. Alright, we're plugged in now. Shouldn't have any power issues. Alright, so yeah, Artisans, again, pretty good. Pretty good. I think these 3 are the big winners. Janitors, not so sure. Kind of iffy on that one. Warlord traits. We've got 2 separate charts here. One for your Tech Priests, one for your Skitarii. There's only one Skitarii. So the only one that could really benefit from these as a basic Warlord trait is your Skitarii Marshals. But you can give these out for your Alphas and Princeps with that stratagem we were looking at earlier. So, Tech Priest ones, Emotionless Clarity. Your command phase, select one friendly Forge World Colt Mechanicus core unit within 6. Until your next command phase, that unit is eligible to charge any turn in which it fell back. Okay, that's alright. Not sure how many Colt Mechanicus core units I want charging. Maybe just your Electro Priests, and maybe if you've got a Data Smith nearby, maybe your robots. Your Callistan robots. Second one, Masterwork Bionics. This is the one that Call gets. The Warlord has a 4-up invulnerable save and -1 damage to a minimum of 1. It's alright. Gives him a little bit more pep. First hand field testing. Select a weapon that this Warlord is equipped with. That's not a relic. Add 1 to the strength characteristic and damage. Could be okay if you've got a multi-shot weapon where you want to try and stack that damage up on. Necromechanic. Each time this Warlord uses the Master of Machines ability, which is that healing ability we were talking about, it repairs 3 instead of D3. So this, in combination with the heal twice stratagem, you could heal 2 different units, each for 3. Would not be bad. Cartogrammatist. Each toss, let's see, select one friendly Forge World Cult Mechanicus core unit from your army that gains the following ability. It's a teleport or a deep strike. During deployment, you could set this unit up in orbit instead of setting it on the battlefield. Then in your reinforcement step of your movement phase, you could set it up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from enemy models. It's a deep strike. So again, it's free. As far as Warlord trait goes, if you take it for your first, so it could be okay. It does require, again, Cult Mechanicus core. It's during deployment, so I guess the question is, can you use it on the Castellan robots or no? Because in order to get core, they have to be within 3 inches of the datasmith, and if it's during deployment, probably not within 3 yet, unless you're like, oh, they're gonna go here, but then I'm gonna deploy them. Like, I deploy them next to the datasmith. They have core now, and then deploy them. I don't know. But you could deep strike your Cataphrons, I guess. No, they don't. They're not core. Cataphrons aren't core. Cult Mechanicus core. Who would you want to deep strike? Tech break or your Electro Priests, maybe. Electro Priests. Alright, Supervisory Radiance. At the start of your fight phase, select one Forge World Cult Mechanicus core within 9. Until the start of that next fight phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, you can re-roll the hit roll. Alright, so re-roll hits with melee. Again, seems really good for your Electro Priests. Alright, Scutari Multitasking Cortex, and pretty sure all of these have the same initial wording. Scutari core within 9 or data tether. Alright, so what this one is pick a unit until the start of your next command phase. If they're performing an action, then they could shoot ranged weapons without failing that action. It's good. You know, again, more raised banners, more actions, things like that for your secondaries. Battlesphere Uplink, I like this one. Again, pick a unit within 9 or data tether, and they don't suffer the penalties for moving and shooting heavy weapons or advancing and shooting assault weapons. Great. Still good with your Rangers and your Vanguard. Programmed Retreat, this one, another good one. Fall back and shoot for, again, another core or data tether unit. No -1 on that, so that makes it even better in my opinion that it's not a -1. So there you go. I actually used that in my game and it was extremely helpful. Archived Engagements, that one is if you're within engagement range, start of the fight phase, you can fight first. See, fight first, great. Who do you want to fight first with? You could probably do that with your, well, everybody always benefits from fight first, but maybe your infiltrators or your rust stalkers or something that really wants to be in melee. Probably pretty helpful. Probably a good combination of that with one of the relics, which is this Temper Copia, which is a make an enemy fight last. So make somebody fight last, make you fight first. It's good. Firepoint Telemetry Cache. This one, let's see, pick a unit. Each time a wound is allocated to that unit, it's treated as if it's being in light cover. And then if that model is entirely within or on a feature and has the infantry keyword, you add another +1 to your armor save. So great. If you're already in cover, you get an additional +1. So light cover is +2. Or if you're out in the open, you still get a +1. It's good stack, because some of the other abilities for your canticles or for your doctrina affects your save. So good. Last one, Eyes of the Omnissiah. Until the start of your next command phase, you can reroll advance and charge rolls. More reliable charges and advances. Always helpful. Alright, relics. Let's see, Uncreator Gauntlet. This one really only goes on your data smiths. ×2 strength, -3 AP, damage 3. Oh, and I have an excited daughter. She's watching a movie. Something must have good happened in the movie. The bear fights, they make an additional attack. And then if it hits a vehicle, it inflicts a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. So that one's good. The Remnant of the Technomartyr I like as well. Each time the bear loses a wound on D6, it's ignored. And then also the main thing here, I think, is in your command phase, select a friendly Forge World core within 3. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, you can ignore any and all hit roll and ballistic skill modifiers. So if you're shooting at an enemy flyer that reduces your hit by 1, you can ignore it. You can move and fire heavy weapons and ignore that. You can advance and shoot assault weapons again and ignore that. So there's a lot of ways around those negatives to keep you mobile. Skull of Elder Nicola. Pretty sure that's a reference to Tesla, right? Pretty good. At the start of your shooting phase, roll a d6 for each enemy vehicle within 12. On a 2 to 3, they suffer 1 mortal wound. 4 to 5, d3 mortal wounds, and on a 6, 3 mortal wounds. So it's a good mortal wound bomb, and it's at the start of your shooting phase. It's not just once per game. So if your opponent's got a lot of vehicles, you want to get in the middle of them and then just start, irradiating or bursting them with all these mortal wounds. Another good one, again, I'm not going to go over all of these, is the Exemplar's Eternity. This one you put on a Skitarii Marshal only, and it replaces their Servo Skull uplink, and it gives you within 6 inches reroll once to hit and wound. So reroll hits and wounds of 1, very useful, especially on a cheap HQ unit like the Marshal. I think he's only 45 points. Plus Phoenix, done, it's a gun. The axe is okay. The Omniscient Mask changed quite a bit. Before it was reroll melee hit rolls. Now it's an aura, 6-inch aura of melee hits explode on 6s. So that I really like. Again, it makes your blobs a little bit more scary. It should stack with all your Tesla stuff that get exploding 6s anyway. Your Electro Priests getting more attacks. So it's pretty good. I like that one too. Probably put that on a support character and just kind of keep them nearby. Let's see what else. Oh, the Tempora one. Temporcoptia. We'll go with that. Not like your deep fried tempura at your local Japanese restaurant, but that's the making unit fight last. Really good. I put this one on my Princeps for my Skitarii Infiltrators, or the Sicaran Infiltrators, so that way I could infiltrate in and I charge, and I can make sure that they can't interrupt me if I've got multiple charges going around, or if I'm not able to make that charge on their turn, or if I go second, if they charge me, I could still make them go last. So that could be a real lifesaver for those infiltrators. Those are the main ones here. The last one, the cage. Each time the bearer hits an enemy unit, excluding a vehicle with a melee attack, the unit until the end of the phase is electroshocked, and each time a model is electroshocked unit makes an attack -1 to the hit roll. So again, -1 to hit. So the main things I think are ignore hit modifiers, reroll hits and wounds of 1, exploding 6s, always fight last, -1 to hit for enemies. So those I think are really good here. The chapter approved secondaries, honestly I haven't really looked at these too much to try and point out what would be the best ones. It is interesting with the no mercy no respite is basically you have to have a vehicle so on the table and then kill more enemy infantry units. So again, if you're going vehicle heavy, it's really good. Score 3 points at the end of the battle round if there's at least one Adeptus Mechanicus vehicle from your army on the battlefield, and if the Adeptus Mechanicus units from your army destroyed more infantry units this battle round than the enemy destroyed a friendly vehicle units. So probably not going to work too well if you only have a few vehicle units, because once they're dead you can't score it anymore. Or if you lose 2 units and you only kill 1, you're not going to score it. So if you have a bunch of vehicles, and it is units, vehicle units. So your Iron Striders, your Stygian Dragoons, and your Castellan Robots, those are vehicle units. So it's not they killed more models, they have to destroy the entire unit. So that might be a good benefit for you too. Makes it harder to destroy that entire unit. This one here, score 3 victory points at the end of your or at the end of the battle for each destroyed enemy unit that meets one or more of these criteria. Has a Warlord trait, has a relic, or the model is a vehicle keyword with the wounds characteristic of 14 or more. So if you're going against somebody that likes a bunch of relics and Warlord traits, it might not be too hard to get, because you get 3 for each. And then if somebody likes big vehicles too, 14 or more wounds on a vehicle, and you get 3 points. So there's that. Uncharted sequencing. Let's see. That one. That one's interesting. So deploy the battle, before the deployment, assign 1 objective marker to each battle round and note this down on your army roster. And an objective marker cannot be assigned to more than 1 battle round. Score 3 victory points at the end of the battle round if you control the objective marker that round. So I've seen this one in like a battle report or 2. I don't think I would use it too much, because you're basically telegraphing where you want to be on the battlefield, what objective you want to control each in what specific turn. So interesting. Might make you able to juke out an opponent, maybe, if you're like, oh, I want to get this one over here on turn 3, and then so they blob up on it so you can't take it, but if you're able to take other ones around it, maybe that works out. I don't know. And then hidden Archaeovault. Before the deployment, your opponent selects 1 objective marker on the battlefield, excluding objective markers in their own deployment zone, and you score 2 victory points at the end of the battle round if you control that objective marker, and 5 at the end of the battle if you control that objective marker. So they can pick one in no man's land or in your own deployment zone, but not their deployment zone. So of course they're going to pick one in no man's land and try to keep you off of it. So if they're able to keep you off of it successfully all game, you're not going to get anything. But if you get it for, say, even three rounds of the game, you're only going to score 6. So that one might be pretty tough.